Sit back, relax, and welcome to Reading Hours. Today's book is Animal Farm by George Orwell. Please let us know in the comments from where you are watching, or if there is a book you want us to summarize in future. George Orwell's Animal Farm is a political allegory that uses the structure of a simple fable to deliver a scathing critique of totalitarianism, particularly targeting the rise of Soviet communism. Published in 1945, the novella draws on events from the Russian Revolution and Stalinist rule, illustrating how power can corrupt and how revolutionary ideals can be manipulated to serve oppressive ends. Orwell, a staunch critic of authoritarian regimes, initially struggled to find a publisher due to its direct satire of the Soviet Union, which was an ally of Britain at the time. However, the book eventually gained recognition and has since become a cornerstone of political literature, studied widely for its stark and cautionary themes. The story unfolds on Manor Farm, a run-down agricultural estate owned by Mr. Jones, a careless and often drunken farmer whose neglect causes widespread suffering among his animals. Life on the farm is harsh. The animals toil endlessly, are underfed, and receive no reward for their labor beyond the bare minimum to keep them working. Discontent simmers among them, and a desire for change grows. One evening, as the animals gather in the large barn, a figure of great respect and wisdom, Old Major, an aging boar, takes the floor to address them. Old Major, revered for his intelligence and long life, has gathered the animals to share a vision, a dream he has had of a world where animals are free, living in harmony without human oppression. He speaks of the cruel and exploitative nature of humans, emphasizing that the source of all their misery is man. Man, he argues, reaps all the benefits of their labor while contributing nothing of value himself. He describes a future where the animals rule themselves, working for their own benefit rather than for human masters. His words resonate deeply with the animals, igniting a sense of hope and a hunger for revolution. To solidify his message, Old Major teaches them a song from his youth, Beasts of England, a rousing anthem that speaks of an animal utopia free from suffering. The animals take up the song with enthusiasm, singing in unison until Mr. Jones, disturbed by the noise, fires a shotgun into the air, sending them scurrying back to their sleeping places. Despite the abrupt end to their meeting, the seed of rebellion has been planted, and change now seems inevitable. A few days later, Old Major dies in his sleep, but his ideas live on. Inspired by his words, the more intelligent animals, particularly the pigs, begin to formulate plans for revolution. Among them, two pigs stand out, Snowball and Napoleon. Both are highly intelligent, but they are vastly different in character. Snowball is an idealist, eloquent, and full of grand ideas, while Napoleon is more reserved, calculating, and power-hungry. Another pig, Squealer, possesses a remarkable talent for persuasion and will later prove invaluable in shaping the farm's political narrative. Under their leadership, the animals secretly prepare for the day they will overthrow Mr. Jones. Their opportunity comes sooner than expected. As Jones' mismanagement worsens, he becomes increasingly negligent, drinking heavily and failing to feed the animals. One day, driven by hunger and desperation, the animals finally snap. When the starving creatures break into the storehouse for food, Jones and his farmhands attempt to beat them back with whips. But the animals, fueled by years of suffering and newfound unity, retaliate fiercely. They chase the men off the farm, slamming the gates shut behind them. In a moment of exhilarating triumph, the animals realize they have taken the farm for themselves. They celebrate wildly, galloping around the property and reveling in their newfound freedom. The humans are gone, the land is theirs. In the immediate aftermath, they move quickly to erase all remnants of their past oppression. They burn the whips, chains, and tools of punishment, tear down the harnesses, and destroy anything that symbolizes their former servitude. They even rename the farm. What was once Manor Farm is now Animal Farm, a symbol of their independence and self-rule. The pigs, being the most literate of the animals, take charge of organizing the new society. They establish a set of principles known as animalism, which embodies the ideals Old Major had preached. To make sure all animals understand, they distill these principles into 7 commandments, which are painted in large white letters on the side of the barn. The commandments declare that all animals are equal, that no animal shall wear clothes, sleep in a bed, drink alcohol, or kill another animal. Most importantly, they state that no animal shall ever resemble a human. In the first few days of their new governance, everything seems promising. The animals work harder than ever, but now with a sense of purpose and dignity. They take pride in their labor, knowing that they are working for themselves rather than for a cruel master. The farm runs efficiently under their collective efforts. The pigs quickly assume leadership roles, with Snowball and Napoleon at the forefront, directing activities and making decisions. Snowball, in particular, emerges as an inspiring figure, enthusiastically educating the other animals and devising plans for improvement. Yet, even in these early days of their revolution, small signs of hierarchy begin to emerge. The pigs, citing their intellectual superiority, take certain privileges for themselves. They appropriate the milk and apples produced on the farm, claiming that they are necessary for their well-being as the farm's leaders. When the other animals question this, Squealer steps in with his persuasive rhetoric, explaining that the pigs need these resources to think and plan for the benefit of all. If the pigs failed in their leadership, he warns, Jones might return. The mere mention of Jones is enough to silence any dissent. Despite these warning signs, the animals remain optimistic. They are free, they are working for a common cause, and for the first time, they believe in a better future. Unaware of the subtle shifts in power that are already taking place, they sing Beasts of England with renewed vigor each night, convinced that they have embarked on a journey toward true equality. But as the days pass, the ideals of Animal Farm will be tested, and the unity the animals fought for will begin to crack under the weight of ambition and control. The days following the revolution are filled with energy and excitement. The animals wake up each morning with a newfound sense of purpose, eager to build the utopia that Old Major had envisioned. The farm, now free of human rule, belongs to them, and they revel in the idea that they are working for their own benefit rather than for a cruel master. No longer do they labor under the threat of the whip. Now, they work with a sense of pride, believing that every effort they put into the farm is a step toward a brighter future. In the first weeks, everything runs smoothly. The pigs, being the most intelligent animals, quickly take on leadership roles, directing the daily tasks and organizing the farm's operations. Snowball throws himself into the work great enthusiasm, studying books left behind in Mr. Jones's house and devising plans for improvements. He sets up committees for various causes, one to teach the animals how to read and write, another to improve sanitation, and yet another to train the younger animals in the principles of animalism. Not all of these committees are successful. For instance, the education programs falter, as most of the animals struggle to learn beyond a few basic letters. However, Snowball remains optimistic and continues to believe in the potential of a truly equal society. Napoleon, in contrast, does not share Snowball's idealism. While he, too, takes part in leading the farm, his focus is not on education or progress, but on consolidating power. He takes a particular interest in the young animals, especially the puppies born to the farm dogs shortly after the Revolution. Under the pretense of giving them a proper education, Napoleon takes the puppies away from their mothers and raises them in secret, keeping them hidden from the rest of the farm. While the other animals do not question his actions, this is one of the first signs of his growing ambition. Despite some early struggles, the animals take great pride in their work. They face obstacles. Plowing the fields without human tools is difficult, and the harvest is backbreaking work. But they push through, knowing that they are working for themselves. Boxer, the strong and loyal cart horse, becomes the symbol of this new work ethic. With his personal motto, "I will work harder," he throws himself into every task with unwavering determination, setting an example for the rest of the animals. His sheer strength allows the farm to overcome many difficulties, and the others admire him for his dedication. The animals continue to live by the 7 commandments, which Snowball has painted on the barn wall. They strive to follow these principles, believing that they will ensure a fair and equal society. However, it soon becomes clear that not all animals are as equal as they had hoped. The pigs, citing their need for brain work, exempt themselves from the more physically demanding tasks. Instead of laboring in the fields, they supervise and make decisions. This creates some unease among the other animals, but Squealer, the pig known for his persuasive speeches, reassures them that the pigs are working just as hard, just in a different way. He warns that if the pigs did not take on the responsibility of leadership, the farm would fall into chaos, and worst of all, Jones might return. This fear is enough to keep the other animals in line. As time passes, more disparities begin to emerge. The pigs take over the harness room, converting it into their headquarters, and begin enjoying small luxuries that the other animals do not. One of the first controversies arises over the milk and apples. The animals notice that these valuable resources, instead of being shared equally, are being reserved exclusively for the pigs. When questioned, Squealer once again steps in to justify the decision. He explains that pigs need the extra nutrition to keep their minds sharp, as they are responsible for running the farm. If the pigs fail in their duties, he warns, the entire farm could suffer, and Jones could return. The animals, though uneasy, accept this explanation, too afraid of the prospect of their former master reclaiming power. As the weeks go by, the animals begin to notice other small inconsistencies. Snowball and Napoleon, who were initially comrades in the Revolution, start to clash more frequently. Snowball is full of ideas. He proposes building a windmill that will generate electricity, allowing the animals to enjoy a life of ease with heated stalls and automated farm work. He passionately draws diagrams in the barn and holds meetings to explain his vision. Napoleon, however, is skeptical of Snowball's plans. He argues that focusing on food production is more important than extravagant projects, though he never presents any alternative solutions of his own. Their debates become more heated, with the animals unsure whom to support. Snowball is the more articulate and visionary of the two, inspiring the animals with his grand ideas. But Napoleon is cunning and methodical, working behind the scenes to build his own base of power. Amidst these tensions, news of Animal Farm spreads beyond its borders. The neighboring farms, owned by two men, Mr. Frederick of Pinchfield and Mr. Pilkington of Foxwood, are both alarmed and fascinated by the uprising. At first, they scoff at the idea that animals could run a farm, believing that the rebellion will collapse under its own inefficiency. However, as weeks pass and Animal Farm continues to function, they grow wary. The possibility of rebellion spreading to their own animals concerns them, and they begin spreading false rumors about the farm, claiming that it is in chaos and that the animals are starving. Meanwhile, the animals on Animal Farm are encouraged by the idea that their revolution could inspire others. Snowball, ever the idealist, dreams of sending envoys to other farms to encourage rebellion, believing that the cause of animal freedom should extend beyond their own borders. However, not everything is secure on Animal Farm. Mr. Jones, humiliated and furious over losing his farm, has not given up hope of reclaiming it. Gathering a group of men from the local town, he plans an attack to retake his property by force. Armed with sticks and a gun, Jones and his men storm Animal Farm, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. The animals, though unprepared for a battle, react with remarkable courage. Snowball, who has studied old military tactics from a book he found in the farmhouse, takes charge of the defense. He organizes the animals into strategic positions, using their different strengths to their advantage. The pigeons and geese attack first, harassing the men and disrupting their advance. The larger animals, including Boxer and the cows, charge at full force, knocking men off their feet. In the midst of the chaos, Snowball himself leads a fearless charge against Jones, dodging bullets as he hurls himself at the farmer. His bravery inspires the other animals, and together, they drive the intruders off the farm. The victory is celebrated as a great triumph. The animals name the battle of the cowshed, and declare a solemn remembrance of the day. Snowball is hailed as a hero, and the animals establish military decorations, awarding him and Boxer medals for their bravery. Meanwhile, Napoleon, though present during the battle, has done little to contribute. However, he does not challenge Snowball's moment of glory, at least not yet. That night, the animals once again sing Beasts of England, their anthem of freedom louder than ever before. They believe that their revolution has been defended and that their farm is safe from human rule. Yet, beneath the surface, the first cracks have begun to show. The pigs are growing more powerful. Snowball and Napoleon are on the brink of open rivalry, and not all animals are as equal as they once believed. The dream of utopia is still alive, but for how much longer? In the wake of their victory at the Battle of the Cowshed, the animals of Animal Farm are filled with pride and a deep sense of purpose. The rebellion has not only succeeded, but it has survived its first true test. Mr. Jones has been defeated again, and the farm remains in their control. The animals feel invincible, convinced that their revolution will endure forever. Snowball, who fought bravely in the battle, becomes more admired than ever. His strategic brilliance, which led to the humans' retreat, has cemented him as a leader in the eyes of many. Boxer, too, is celebrated for his sheer strength in the fight, though he is troubled by the fact that he may have killed a man. "I have no wish to take life, not even human life," he says sorrowfully. But he is reassured by Snowball that this was necessary for the defense of their freedom. The animals hold a special ceremony to honor their fallen comrades, and the farm is further organized in the spirit of the revolution. Medals of honor, animal hero, first class, are given to Snowball and Boxer, while a posthumous medal is awarded to a sheep that was killed in battle. The animals decide that October 12th, the day of the Battle of the Cowshed, will be celebrated every year as a day of remembrance, alongside the anniversary of the rebellion itself. Despite the victory, tensions on the farm continue to grow. Snowball and Napoleon, though both recognized as leaders, find themselves at odds more frequently. Snowball is an energetic and charismatic figure, constantly coming up with new ideas for the betterment of Animal Farm. He devotes himself to committees and education, organizing literacy programs, and drawing grand plans for the future. His most ambitious project is the proposed windmill, which he argues will generate electricity and automate much of the farm's labor. With the windmill, Snowball promises the animals will only have to work a fraction of what they do now, and they will live lives of comfort and leisure. Napoleon, however, has no interest in Snowball's grand ideas. He scoffs at the windmill, calling it a waste of time and resources. He argues that the animals should focus on food production rather than indulging in dreams of technology. Napoleon does not engage in open debate like Snowball does. Instead, he works behind the scenes, quietly gathering support among the animals who are less able to think for themselves. He is particularly interested in the sheep, who are easily swayed and can be taught simple slogans. Under his influence, they begin bleating, "4 legs good, 2 legs bad," at key moments during Snowball's speeches, drowning out discussion and making intelligent debate impossible. Meanwhile, Napoleon's secret plans are beginning to unfold. The puppies he took from their mothers months ago have grown into large, fierce dogs, trained entirely under his command. The other animals have all but forgotten about them, as they have been raised in isolation, away from public view. As the tension between Snowball and Napoleon reaches its peak, Napoleon is ready to act. The great debate over the windmill becomes the breaking point. Snowball, after weeks of careful planning, presents his final case to the assembled animals, outlining his vision in great detail. He describes how the windmill will power electric lights, heating systems, and machinery that will make their lives easier. His speech is compelling, and it seems as though he has won over the majority of the animals. Napoleon, seeing that he is losing the debate, makes his move. Without warning, Napoleon lets out a high-pitched whimper, a sound the animals have never heard before. In response, from the barn rushes a pack of enormous, snarling dogs, the very same puppies he took and raised in secret. They charge straight at Snowball. He barely has time to react before the dogs are upon him, snapping at his heels. In sheer terror, he dashes for his life, racing across the farm as the vicious hounds pursue him. The other animals watch in horror as Snowball sprints toward the boundary, leaping just in time to escape through a hole in the fence. He vanishes into the distance, never to be seen again. a stunned silence falls over the farm. Napoleon's dogs return to his side, standing guard like a private security force. The animals are shocked. Snowball, their hero of the Battle of the Cowshed, has been driven away in an instant. But before they can process what has happened, Napoleon steps forward and addresses them. With the calm authority of a ruler who expects no dissent, he announces that from this moment on, all decisions will be made by a select committee of pigs, led by himself. There will be no more public debates, no more voting. The time for discussions is over. At first, the animals are uneasy. They have grown accustomed to open discussion, even if Snowball and Napoleon often clashed. Some of them begin to protest, but Napoleon has prepared for this. His dogs growl menacingly at any sign of dissent, and the animals quickly fall into silence. Then, as if to justify Napoleon's power grab, Squealer steps forward. Squealer, as always, is a master of manipulation. He paints Snowball as a traitor, someone who had been secretly working against them all along. He claims that Snowball was an agent of Mr. Jones, plotting to overthrow Animal Farm from within. The animals are confused. Hadn't Snowball been the one who led them to victory at the Battle of the Cowshed? But Squealer is ready with an answer for everything. Comrades, do you not remember how Snowball fled when the battle was at its height? And now we know why. He was in league with the enemy all along. Squealer's words, combined with the ever-present threat of Napoleon's dogs, convinced the animals to accept this new reality. Snowball, once their hero, is now an enemy of the state. The animals are left feeling uneasy, but they are too afraid to resist. With Snowball gone, Napoleon moves quickly to consolidate his rule. He begins dismantling the very ideas of democracy that had defined Animal Farm. The Sunday meetings, where the animals once debated farm policies, are abolished. In their place, Napoleon institutes private meetings among the pigs, who will make all decisions in secret. The animals are told that this new system is necessary for efficiency, that debates and arguments only slow progress. Despite his earlier opposition to the windmill, Napoleon suddenly announces that it will, in fact, be built. This confuses the animals, as he had fiercely opposed the idea when Snowball had proposed it. But Squealer is once again ready with an explanation. Napoleon was never truly against the windmill, comrades, he insists. He merely pretended to oppose it to get rid of the traitor Snowball, who would have ruined it with his reckless plans. Now that Napoleon is in charge, the windmill will be built properly. The animals, their memories already beginning to blur, accept this version of events. Construction of the windmill begins, but it is slow, exhausting work. The animals are forced to labor harder than ever, hauling heavy stones under Napoleon's strict command. Boxer, ever the loyal worker, throws himself into the task, adopting a new motto: Napoleon is always right. Though doubts linger in the minds of some, fear keeps them silent. Napoleon's rise to power is complete, and the ideals of Animal Farm have begun to shift in ways the animals never could have predicted. The dream of equality, once so vivid and inspiring, is already slipping out of reach. The days following Napoleon's takeover are marked by an uneasy quiet. Without Snowball, there is no more debate, no more passionate speeches about the future of Animal Farm, only orders, commands, and the ever-present growl of Napoleon's dogs. The animals feel a sense of loss, but they cannot quite articulate it. Something has changed, though they do not yet understand how deeply. The work on the windmill begins under Napoleon's direction. It is a slow and backbreaking process. The animals, who have no proper tools, must haul heavy stones up a steep incline before letting them crash down to break into usable pieces. The labor is unlike anything they have ever known, far harder than under Jones, but they take comfort in the thought that they are working for themselves. Boxer, more determined than ever, becomes the heart of the effort. With his new slogan, Napoleon is always right, he throws himself into the work, sometimes laboring long after the others have collapsed from exhaustion. His mighty strength becomes essential to the windmill's progress, and though the task seems nearly impossible, his sheer willpower keeps the others going. But as the animals work harder, their conditions begin to worsen. Food rations are cut, and hunger sets in, especially during the winter months. The pigs, however, seem unaffected. They grow fatter and more comfortable, moving into the farmhouse and enjoying the luxuries once reserved for humans. At first, this causes some murmurs of discontent, but Squealer is quick to address their concerns. "Comrades," he says in his usual soothing tone, "surely you do not want our leaders to be distracted by discomfort when they are making decisions for all of us. You would not want them to fail in their important duties, would you?" And when he reminds them once again that Jones could return if the pigs are not given special treatment, the animals fall silent. They do not like what is happening, but they are too frightened to speak out. Meanwhile, Napoleon's rule grows more authoritarian. The Sunday meetings, where the animals once gathered to make decisions together, are now reduced to simple ceremonies where they receive their weekly orders. Napoleon rarely appears in public anymore, instead sending Squealer to speak on his behalf. The pigs begin using Napoleon's name with reverence, attributing every success on the farm to his wisdom. "It is thanks to the leadership of Comrade Napoleon," Squealer often says, "that we have accomplished so much." The animals, unsure of what else to believe, accept this as truth. To solidify his rule, Napoleon makes use of fear. Whenever there are whispers of dissatisfaction, his fierce dogs are quick to silence them. The animals live in quiet dread, knowing that speaking out against Napoleon is dangerous. Then one evening, that fear takes a horrifying turn. Napoleon assembles the animals in the barn for an important announcement. As they stand together, shivering in the cold, he emerges with his 9 loyal dogs at his heels. There is a tension in the air, an unspoken sense of foreboding. Then, without warning, Napoleon lets out a sharp command. At once, his dogs leap forward, seizing 4 pigs by the ears and dragging them to the front. The animals are stunned. These pigs had once been among Napoleon's supporters, but now they tremble before him. Napoleon demands confessions, and to the animals' shock, the pigs begin to speak. Their voices, quivering with terror, admit to crimes, secret meetings with Snowball, plots against Napoleon, plans to sabotage the farm. Whether these confessions are true or forced is impossible to tell, but the moment they finish speaking, the dogs lunge. The pigs are torn apart in front of the horrified crowd. A chill of silence falls over the barn, but it is not over. More animals are dragged forward, hens who had questioned Napoleon's policies, a sheep who had once spoken favorably of Snowball, a goose who had supposedly hoarded food. One by one, they confess, and one by one, they are slaughtered. The blood soaks into the ground, staining the very earth of Animal Farm. By the time the executions are over, the animals are trembling with shock. They have never seen such violence, not even under Jones. This is not the world they had fought for, not the dream of equality and freedom that old Major had spoken of. Boxer, unable to comprehend what has happened, simply repeats to himself, "I will work harder. Napoleon is always right." That night, shaken and afraid, the animals huddled together. Some of them remember that the sixth commandment had once stated, "No animal shall kill any other animal." But when they sneak to the barn wall, they find that the commandment has been altered. Now it reads, "No animal shall kill any other animal without cause." The realization dawns slowly, like a terrible weight pressing upon them. The rules of animalism are changing, but no one knows how to stop it. Despite the horror of the purges, Napoleon remains untouchable. He rarely appears in public now, and when he does, he is treated like a king. A special song is written in his honor, and Squealer begins referring to him as our leader, Comrade Napoleon. He is no longer simply a pig, he is something greater, a figure above the rest of them. And still, the animals work. The windmill, the great dream of progress, must be completed. Though they are weaker, hungrier, and more afraid than ever, they press on. Boxer continues to carry the heaviest loads, even as his body begins to show signs of strain. He ignores the aches in his muscles, the pain in his hooves. All that matters is the windmill. But fate is not kind to Animal Farm. As winter deepens, the farm's struggles worsen. Food supplies dwindle to dangerous levels. The animals grow thinner, weaker, but they dare not complain. Napoleon has spies everywhere, and any hint of disloyalty is met with swift punishment. The outside world begins to take notice. Rumors spread that Animal Farm is failing. To counter this, Napoleon devises a clever trick. He has the food bins in the storage shed filled nearly to the brim with sand, leaving only a thin layer of real grain on top. Then, he invites human visitors from nearby farms to inspect their progress. From the outside, it looks as though Animal Farm is thriving. The humans leave, impressed by what appears to be a successful operation. The animals, however, remain hungry. Desperation reaches its peak in the bitterest days of winter. One night, Napoleon makes an announcement. The hens must give up their eggs to be sold for food. This is too much. The hens, who have already suffered under Napoleon's rule, refuse. They stage a brief but daring rebellion, smashing their eggs rather than handing them over. Napoleon reacts with swift brutality. He orders that the ringleaders be starved into submission. For 5 days, the rebellious hens are denied food. One by one, they grow weaker and collapse. In the end, they surrender, and Napoleon's authority is once again unquestioned. As the animals watch their fallen comrades being buried in the frozen ground, a question lingers in their minds, unspoken but deeply felt. Was this truly what they had fought for? Was this the better world they had dreamed of? But no one dares to ask. Fear has taken hold of Animal Farm, and Napoleon stands at its center, unchallenged, unopposed, and more powerful than ever. As the months pass, the weight of Napoleon's rule settles heavily upon the animals. The dream of equality and freedom, once so vivid in their hearts, has faded into a distant memory, replaced by a grim, unspoken reality. Life is harsher than ever, food is scarce, work is endless, and fear governs every action. The animals no longer speak of rebellion, nor do they question Napoleon's decrees. They simply obey. The windmill, that grand symbol of progress, nears completion, but it has come at a terrible cost. The animals toil day and night, dragging heavy stones with their weakened bodies, their muscles aching under the strain. Yet, despite their suffering, they cling to the belief that the windmill will bring them a better life. Napoleon has promised that once it is finished, their labor will be reduced, their lives made easier. It is a hope they cannot afford to lose. Meanwhile, Napoleon's grip on power tightens. He no longer appears in public without his fierce dogs flanking him on either side, their sharp teeth bared as a silent warning. His image is everywhere. His name is spoken with reverence, his decisions unquestioned. The animals whisper among themselves about how much he has changed. He is no longer simply one of them. He is something more. Then, one day, Napoleon makes a shocking announcement. Animal Farm will engage in trade with the neighboring human farms. This declaration stuns the animals. Hadn't they always been told that contact with humans was forbidden? That humans were the enemy? That dealing with them would betray the very principles of animalism. The unease spreads quickly, but as always, Squealer is there to smooth over their doubts. "Comrades," he says, smiling reassuringly, "surely you do not think that our great leader Napoleon would ever betray the revolution. This is merely a temporary arrangement, a necessary step to ensure the prosperity of Animal Farm. And let me remind you, nowhere in our original commandments was it stated that trade was forbidden. Surely you must have imagined it." The animals, their memories growing increasingly clouded, are unsure. Hadn't there been a rule against this? Or was Squealer right? In the end, they let the matter drop. After all, questioning Napoleon is dangerous. Soon, a human solicitor named Mr. Whymper begins visiting the farm to arrange trade deals. The sight of him walking freely among them is unsettling, but they say nothing. The pigs begin selling timber, eggs, and other goods in exchange for luxuries that only they enjoy: whiskey, sugar, and finer food. While the pigs feast in the warmth of the farmhouse, the rest of the animals shiver in the cold, their stomachs empty. The divide between the pigs and the other animals grows wider. The pigs wear clothes now, walk on 2 legs in private, and even begin adopting human habits. The farmhouse, once the forbidden domain of humans, has become their palace. The other animals are forbidden from entering, and the once sacred commandments painted on the barn seem to shift before their very eyes. Then disaster strikes. One evening, as a storm rages over the farm, the animals wake to a terrible sound splintering wood, the howling of the wind, the earth shaking beneath their hooves. Rushing outside, they see it. The windmill, their windmill, has collapsed into a heap of rubble. All their labor, all their suffering, has been wiped away in an instant. The animals stand in shock, their hearts sinking. How could this have happened? How could everything they had worked for be gone? The devastation is overwhelming. But before the despair can settle too deeply, Napoleon arrives with a new explanation. Snowball. It was Snowball, he tells them, who has done this. The traitor who had once plotted against them, the villain who had been working against their revolution all along. He has returned under the cover of darkness, sabotaging their efforts, seeking to destroy what they had built. The animals are horrified. Snowball, their former leader, their hero of the Battle of the Cowshed, has become a phantom of fear, blamed for every misfortune, every failure. He lurks in the shadows of their minds, an invisible enemy that justifies every cruelty Napoleon inflicts upon them. "We shall rebuild," Napoleon declares. "We shall rebuild stronger than before, and this time, Snowball will not stop us." The animals, though weary, find themselves filled with a renewed determination. If Snowball is out there working against them, then they must work harder. They must prove their loyalty to Napoleon, to the farm, to the cause. And so, they begin again. dragging stone, hauling materials, rebuilding the windmill from the ground up. Napoleon seizes upon the moment, using the fear of Snowball to root out more enemies. One by one, animals are accused of conspiring with Snowball, of aiding him in his secret plots. They confess, some truthfully, most out of fear, and one by one they are executed. The ground is soaked with the blood of the accused, and the air is thick with terror. Boxer, ever loyal, is disturbed by the executions, but convinces himself that Napoleon must know best. He works harder than ever, pushing himself to the limit. His strength is the farm's greatest asset, but his body is aging, his once powerful muscles beginning to falter. His hooves ache, his breath comes in short gasps, yet he refuses to slow down. "I will work harder," he tells himself. Napoleon is always right, but the strain is becoming too much. The animals begin to notice how Boxer stumbles more often, how he struggles to carry the same heavy loads he once bore with ease. They worry for him, but he refuses their concern. His purpose is clear: to serve the farm, to serve Napoleon, to build the windmill. And yet, in the quiet of night, some of the animals still wonder, where is Snowball, really? Had he truly returned to sabotage them, or was this another lie? The truth, if it still exists, is buried beneath layers of fear and confusion. Napoleon, now more powerful than ever, continues his reign, his word law, his rule absolute. The animals have lost much: their strength, their comrades, their sense of hope. But they have not yet lost everything. The windmill is rising again, a testament to their perseverance. But at what cost? Though they do not say it aloud, some of them begin to realize Animal Farm is no longer theirs. It belongs to Napoleon. And under his rule, there will be no end to their toil, no fulfillment of the promises once made. They are not free. They are slaves. And the worst part, they no longer know the difference. The windmill stands once more, taller and stronger than before, but its completion brings no relief to the animals. Napoleon had promised that their labor would be rewarded, that the farm would prosper, that life would improve, but the reality is far different. The windmill is not used to generate electricity, as they had once dreamed, but to grind corn for sale. Instead of easing their burden, it only fuels Napoleon's growing wealth, while the animals continue to toil harder than ever. Hunger gnaws at them as the cold of winter settles in. Their food rations, already meager, are cut again. The pigs, however, remain well fed, indulging in luxuries that the others can only dream of. They drink whiskey in the warmth of the farmhouse, their bellies full, while the rest of the animals grow thinner and weaker. Even in the darkest nights, the sound of their laughter and singing drifts out from behind closed doors, a cruel reminder of the widening divide between the rulers and the ruled. To distract the animals from their suffering, Napoleon orchestrates grand ceremonies. Every Sunday, they gather to listen to long speeches praising his leadership. He is no longer just Napoleon, he is our leader, Comrade Napoleon, the savior of Animal Farm. His name is spoken with reverence, his decisions unquestioned. Statues are erected, songs are composed, and the sheep, who have grown eerily obedient, bleat their mindless chant whenever a dissenting voice is raised. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. But some of the older animals still remember. They remember a time when they had spoken freely, when decisions had been made together, when the commandments had been clear and unaltered. One evening, Clover, the gentle mare, walks alone to the barn wall. She looks at the commandments, struggling to read the faded letters. Something feels wrong. She remembers, vaguely, that the rules were different once, that they had promised equality, fairness, and justice. But when she squints at the words painted on the wall, she sees only one commandment remains. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. A chill runs through her. She does not understand how or when it changed, but she knows one thing for certain: the dream of animalism is gone. It has been twisted into something unrecognizable. She wants to tell the others, to warn them, but when she turns away, she sees Squealer watching her from the shadows, his small eyes gleaming. The pigs grow bolder in their corruption. They no longer bother to hide their indulgences. They drink openly, lounge lazily in the farmhouse, and even begin to walk on two legs. The sight is horrifying at first. When the animals see the pigs marching across the yard, upright like the humans they had sworn to hate, their blood runs cold. But before they can protest, the sheep launch into a new chant, louder and more forceful than ever. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. It is done. The pigs have become the very thing they once opposed. Napoleon, once an ordinary pig among them, now carries himself like a king. He dresses in human clothes, carries a whip, and no longer speaks to the animals as an equal. He speaks down to them, issuing orders, dictating their lives. And yet, despite everything, the animals remain silent. Fear has taken root too deeply. Dissent is dangerous, and hope is a distant memory. Then, Boxer collapses. It happens in the middle of a long workday, as he strains to drag a heavy load of stone to the windmill. His legs tremble, his breath comes in short gasps, and before he can take another step, his body gives out. He crashes to the ground, dust rising around him, his massive frame unmoving. The animals rush to his side, panic in their eyes. Boxer, strong, loyal Boxer, has never faltered before. Clover presses her nose against him, whispering words of comfort. "It's all right, Boxer. You just need to rest." But Boxer's breathing is ragged, and his once mighty muscles refuse to obey him. He is old, he is broken, and though he does not say it, he knows his time is running out. News of Boxer's condition spreads quickly. The animals expect that he will be cared for, that he will be allowed to retire as he was promised. They wait for Napoleon to give the order. And soon, the word comes. A special cart is being sent to take Boxer to a human veterinarian, where he will receive treatment. The animals are relieved. Though Napoleon has been cruel, at least he is keeping his promise to Boxer. But when the cart arrives and Boxer is loaded inside, Benjamin, the old donkey, suddenly freezes. He stares at the side of the cart, his eyes wide with horror. The words painted on the wood are clear: Alfred Simmons, horse slaughterer and glue boiler. It is not a veterinary cart. It is a slaughterhouse wagon. Panic erupts. The animals cry out, chasing after the cart, screaming for Boxer to jump out. But he is too weak, too tired. His hooves scrape against the wooden boards as he tries to stand, but he cannot. The last thing they hear is a desperate, weak neigh before the doors slam shut. Boxer is gone. For days, the animals are silent, their grief too heavy to bear. But soon, Squealer arrives with an explanation. "Comrades, I regret to inform you that our beloved Boxer has passed away in the hospital. He fought bravely until the end, and our great leader, Comrade Napoleon, was by his side in spirit." The animals want to believe him, but deep down, they know the truth. Boxer did not die in a hospital. He He was not cared for. He was sent to his death, sold for money to buy whiskey for the pigs. And yet, no one speaks against it. A few days later, Napoleon holds a banquet in Boxer's honor. The pigs drink late into the night, toasting to the memory of their most loyal worker. The sound of their laughter fills the air as the animals sit outside in the cold, watching through the windows of the farmhouse. Boxer's last words had been, "Napoleon is always right." But as the animals stare at the pigs, feasting and reveling in their stolen wealth, a terrible realization settles over them. Napoleon had never been right. He had never been their leader. He had been their master. And they had always been his slaves. The farm moves forward, but the animals move only in circles, trapped in a cycle of toil, hunger, and quiet despair. Boxer is gone, but his absence is quickly swallowed by the passage of time. No one speaks his name too loudly, though they all feel the void he has left behind. Work on the farm continues as if nothing has changed, but deep down, the animals know everything has changed. They are weaker, they are fewer, and they are more afraid than ever. Napoleon, however, grows stronger. His power is absolute now, his control unquestioned. The pigs live in comfort, indulging in luxuries once reserved for humans. They dine on fine foods, drink whiskey freely, and sleep in soft beds while the other animals huddle together in the cold. Yet no one dares to complain. Even Benjamin, the old donkey who has seen everything, keeps his head down, knowing that descent leads only to suffering. Each morning, Squealer delivers new figures, rattling off statistics about increased production, higher efficiency, and the prosperity of Animal Farm. The numbers are impressive, almost miraculous, but they mean nothing to the animals. Their stomachs are empty. Their bodies ache. They no longer believe in the future they once fought for, but they lack the strength to resist. The Sunday meetings have been abolished for some time now, and the animals no longer have any say in the farm's affairs. Decisions are made behind closed doors, in the farmhouse where only pigs are allowed. The common animals still gather in the yard for weekly celebrations of Napoleon's greatness, but the ceremonies are hollow. The songs praising Comrade Napoleon ring false in their ears, and even the sheep's endless chanting feels mechanical. Despite their suffering, they dare not voice their doubts. Napoleon's dogs patrol the farm, their eyes ever watchful. Their growls a constant reminder of what happens to those who question the leader. The fear of Snowball, too, still lingers, though no one has seen him. His name is invoked whenever something goes wrong. If the milk supply runs low, if the harvest is poor, if tools break, it is always Snowball's fault. It is an easy lie, but a necessary one. Without an enemy, Napoleon's rule would have no justification. The farm's dealings with humans grow bolder. Napoleon, once the champion of animalism, openly collaborates with neighboring farmers, trading goods and exchanging favors. The animals, who had once believed that all humans were their enemies, no longer know what to think. The commandments had once forbidden any alliance with humans, yet now the pigs negotiate with them regularly. Even more shocking, one day the animals see the pigs standing on two legs. It is Clover who sees them first, watching from a distance as Napoleon and the other pigs march proudly across the yard, their cloven hooves balancing awkwardly as they take stiff, unnatural strides. She blinks, hoping she is imagining it, but the sight does not change. The pigs, once their comrades, once animals like them, are walking like men. A cold dread spreads through the farm as the other animals see it too. They gather in silent horror, watching as the pigs parade themselves, no longer hiding their transformation. Their bodies are still swine, but their mannerisms are unmistakably human. They wear clothes now, tailored suits and fine coats, and they carry whips in their hooves. The last traces of the old revolution crumble before their eyes. Before anyone can react, the sheep, as if on cue, launch into a new chant, their voices filling the air. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. It is the final betrayal. The animals watch numb as their leaders abandon the last pretense of equality. They want to protest, to cry out, but the words do not come. They have been conditioned for too long, beaten into submission by years of exhaustion and fear. The commandments on the barn wall, once a symbol of the revolution's ideals, have disappeared entirely. In their place, a single statement remains. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It is the final truth, the only truth that matters now. The pigs have won. The revolution has failed, and the dream of Animal Farm is dead. Time passes, and the animals no longer measure the seasons by hope or change, but by their endless cycle of labor. The windmill, rebuilt after its destruction, stands tall on the farm, but it does not bring them the ease of life they once imagined. Instead of powering machines to reduce their work, it grinds corn for sale, bringing in profits that the animals never see. The pigs, now ruling in complete comfort, grow fatter and lazier, while the other animals grow thinner and weaker. The farm itself has changed beyond recognition. No longer is there any mention of rebellion, freedom, or animalism. The old dreams of an equal society have faded into silence, and even the memory of the revolution is slowly being rewritten. Napoleon's image is everywhere. His name is spoken in reverence, his decisions unquestioned. The animals have learned to accept that life is simply as it is, and questioning it leads only to suffering. Napoleon holds more frequent meetings with the neighboring human farmers, and these meetings take on a celebratory tone. The pigs, dressed in human clothes, drink beer and toast to their successes alongside the very men they once called enemies. The animals watch from a distance, but they are no longer shocked. Nothing shocks them anymore. They have become too weary, too broken to care. One evening, they gather in silence outside the farmhouse, drawn by the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. Through the window, they see something strange. The pigs and the humans are seated around a table, playing cards and drinking together, indistinguishable from one another. The animals press closer, their eyes searching for some difference, some proof that the pigs have not completely become their oppressors. Inside, Napoleon sits at the head of the table, his thick body leaning forward as he talks animatedly with Mr. Pilkington, one of the human farmers. The conversation is warm, full of compliments and shared laughter. Mr. Pilkington raises his glass, smiling as he speaks. "Gentlemen, I give you a toast to the prosperity of Animal Farm." The pigs cheer, raising their glasses in unison. Napoleon stands and makes his own toast, praising the friendship between the pigs and humans. He speaks of the new era of cooperation, of mutual understanding between Animal Farm and its human neighbors. The days of rebellion, he declares, are over. The very principles of animalism, which once defined their struggle, are dismissed as childish and impractical. And then Napoleon delivers the final betrayal. There will be no more calling each other comrade. There will be no more Sunday meetings. And most importantly, the farm will no longer be known as Animal Farm. It will once again be called Manor Farm, the name it had before the revolution. The animals outside the window do not react, not outwardly. But inside, something breaks. The last piece of their revolution, their identity, their purpose, has been erased. Manor Farm. It is as if nothing had ever changed. Inside, the card game continues, but tensions rise. Napoleon and Mr. Pilkington both reach for the same card at the same time, and suddenly, the room erupts in shouting. Accusations of cheating fly back and forth, and the friendly atmosphere turns hostile. The animals, still peering through the window, watch as the pigs and humans argue, their faces contorted with anger. And then, something terrifying happens. As the animals look from one face to another, they realize that they can no longer tell the difference between them. The pigs' faces have changed, not suddenly, not magically, but subtly over time, until they are indistinguishable from the humans. Their snouts have become rounder, their expressions more cunning, their movements eerily human. The animals watch in horror as Napoleon slams his hand on the table, his eyes glinting with the same greed and cruelty as the men beside him. The shouting continues, but the animals no longer listen. They only stare, their hearts sinking as they finally understand the truth that has been creeping upon them for years. The revolution is gone. The dream is dead. And they, the animals of Animal Farm, of Manor Farm, are right back where they started. The animals stand outside the farmhouse window, their eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before them. Inside, pigs and humans argue over a card game, accusations of cheating flying across the table, their voices rising with anger. But the animals are no longer listening to the words. They are watching as the creatures before them, the ones who had once been their comrades, twist and shift, their faces so alike that it becomes impossible to tell them apart. Pigs and men and pigs. They had fought to overthrow one master, only to serve another, and the new master had become no different from the old. The world outside the farmhouse is silent. The animals do not speak. What could they say? They are no longer naive enough to be shocked, but the weight of realization settles over them like a suffocating fog. The farm is no longer theirs. Perhaps it never truly was. It has been taken from them, reshaped into something cruel and familiar. The promise of animalism had withered away, its commandments erased, its ideals buried beneath the hooves of those who once claimed to protect it. And yet, the work will go on. The sun will rise, and the animals will rise with it, their aching bodies dragging themselves back to the fields. They will plow the land, harvest the crops, rebuild the fences, all while the pigs live in comfort, drinking and feasting inside the farmhouse. They will labor beneath a flag that no longer holds any meaning, for a cause that no longer exists. The dream that old Major once spoke of, that shining vision of a world where animals would rule themselves, free and equal, has died. But the animals, they will not rebel again. They are too tired, too broken, too afraid. The executions, the betrayals, the changing rules, it has all conditioned them to accept their fate. Some still remember a time before Napoleon, before the corruption, before the lies. But what good does remembering do? There is no one left to fight for the past, no one left to restore what was lost. The idea of revolution is nothing more than a whisper in the wind, a story half remembered by those too old to act. Clover, standing among the other animals, turns her gaze back to the farmhouse window. The shouting inside has faded, replaced by laughter once more. The pigs and humans, their fight forgotten, toast to their success, clinking glasses filled with whiskey. The sight is almost absurd. Two sworn enemies, united not by justice or fairness, but by power, by greed, by the simple fact that they have always been the rulers while the others have always been the ruled. Somewhere in the distance, the sheep begin their mindless chant again. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. 4 legs good, 2 legs better. Their voices are empty, hollow echoes of the past, and yet no one tells them to stop. As the animals turn away from the window, shuffling back toward their cold, bare sleeping quarters, there is no discussion, no argument, no whispered plans of rebellion. They simply walk. The last illusion has shattered, and there is nothing left to hold onto but survival. Tomorrow they will work, they will obey. They will live as they always have, under the rule of those who call themselves more equal than others. The story of Animal Farm does not end with the last page of the book. Its message lingers, echoing through generations, through revolutions, through the shifting tides of history. Orwell's fable was not merely a tale about animals on a farm. It was a warning, a mirror held up to the world, reflecting the cycles of power, corruption, and oppression that have defined human societies for centuries. The novel, though written in 1945, remains as relevant today as it was in Orwell's time. A chilling reminder that revolutions can be co-opted, ideals can be manipulated, and those who seek power often end up resembling the very oppressors they once fought against. Upon its publication, Animal Farm was met with both acclaim and resistance. Many immediately recognized its allegorical critique of the Soviet Union, where Joseph Stalin had turned a workers' revolution into a brutal dictatorship. The book was banned in the USSR and other authoritarian regimes that saw too much of themselves reflected in its pages. Even in democratic countries, Animal Farm faced resistance. Publishers hesitated to print it, fearing its implications amid wartime alliances. And yet, despite these obstacles, Orwell's story spread, carving its place in literary and political history. The novel became a crucial tool for understanding how totalitarianism takes root, not through outright force at first, but through gradual manipulation. The rewriting of history, the use of fear to silence dissent, the slow erosion of rights under the guise of security, these are tactics not confined to the world of Animal Farm. Orwell illustrated how propaganda, represented by Squealer, can twist facts so thoroughly that truth itself becomes irrelevant. He showed how fear, embodied in Napoleon's vicious dogs, can suppress even the strongest spirits. And he warned of the complacency that allows tyranny to thrive, the willingness to accept small injustices until they grow into chains too heavy to break. More than 70 years after its publication, Animal Farm continues to be taught in schools, debated in political discussions, and referenced whenever power is abused. Its themes transcend time and place. From oppressive governments to corporate monopolies, from political deception to social manipulation, the lessons of Orwell's Allegory remain strikingly relevant. The image of the pigs walking on 2 legs, blending seamlessly with their former human oppressors, is an image that haunts history, a reminder that those who seek unchecked power often become indistinguishable from those they once overthrew. But perhaps the greatest tragedy of Animal Farm is not its depiction of oppression, but its portrayal of the silent, weary acceptance of it. The animals, though suffering, do not rise up again. They do not challenge their new masters. They simply endure, having lost all faith that change is possible. This, more than anything, is Orwell's final warning that tyranny succeeds not just because of the cruelty of the powerful, but because of the passivity of those who submit to it. And so, Animal Farm endures, not just as a novel, but as a warning that power corrupts, that history can be rewritten, that freedom is fragile, and that if we are not vigilant, we may one day find ourselves looking through a window, unable to tell the difference between those who rule and those who once claimed to liberate us.